Hi, I'm Stephanie of The Simple Classroom, and today I want to talk to you about the power and benefit of recorded readings in the classroom. So, the hallmark of second grade literacy instruction, which is where I have almost all of my teaching experience, is in second grade, and a big chunk of that was literacy only because I worked at a school that was departmentalized in second grade for a while. The hallmark of that year for kids is fluency instruction because second grade is a bridge year. You have pre-K through first is mastering phonemic awareness, and then phonics and word level fluency, sentence level fluency. But really, it's not enough to prepare them for the massive jump they're going to make in third through the rest of time that they're in school, where they're going to be reading complex texts that are rich in academic vocabulary, that require deep comprehension, that require reading stamina. I mean, when you think about what the kids are doing in first grade with sentence level fluency and what they're going to be asked to do in third grade, the burden on second grade teachers is real. Like, you have to bridge that gap, which is why second grade is thought of as that bridge year. It's all about fluency, or it should be. Now, fluency instruction in second grade does you no good with a student who has massive phonics gaps. You have to address those first. Fluency instruction in second grade does you no good with kids that are already beautifully fluent and they are reading long, complex passages with no hesitation and comprehending it perfectly. They don't need it. But I would say the bulk of second grade students in America need it. They need some exposure to what fluent reading sounds like, which hopefully they've been getting their whole academic career. But in second grade, it's when you can be more intentional about, listen to the way I'm reading this book. This is how you need to sound when you're reading this book. I have free posters in my store that I always put up the first week of school in small groups, and I refer to them during my whole group lessons about the components of fluency and what fluent reading sounds like, that prosody, my rate, my expression, all of that. I refer back to it when I'm reading to them so that they can see it illustrated. I point out when I just did something really, really well. But one powerful tool is, along with the kids hearing what fluent reading is supposed to look like, is for them to every once in a while be able to hear what they sound like. And that's where recorded readings come in. Now, this idea is not mine alone. I did my thesis on this idea, just like humble brag, in college, based off of the research of lots of people before me. Dr. Richard Allington has some really great pieces on reading fluency and how he thinks of it as like the forgotten component of literacy instruction. And he referred to recorded readings, which is where I ever got the idea to do an action research project on it in college with kids and have some kids record their reading and some kids never listen to their reading, and compare the fluency of the two different groups of kids from beginning of the year to the end of the year. And just spoiler, the kids who regularly heard themselves read and reflected on what they could do to improve, their fluency skyrocketed. Now, I wasn't with those kids. I was an intern, so I wasn't with those kids into the future to tell you how that prepared them for third grade. But knowing what we know about the kind of reading that kids have to do in third grade, there's no way that it hurt them to be more fluent readers by the end of the year, right? So I wanted to talk to y'all about what a recorded reading looks like. There are lots of different ways that you can do this. I do think that it's powerful enough to work into your classroom like once a month. But there are lots of different ways that you can do it. So some of the ways that I have done it is in small groups. Like on a Friday once a month, I pull the kids into a couple of different groups, give them iPads that has, this is my phone, but the voice recorder app, my face recognition wasn't working. The voice memos is what it looks like. And it just has this. The kids can plug headphones into it, record themselves reading. I would introduce the task to my small group table and then send them off, maybe one in the hallway and one stays at my table or something. So they're not reading right next to each other, because then the quality of the recording won't be as good, especially if you have a bunch of centers going around in your room as well. There's already kind of noise pollution. So just having one kid there to read right into the device rather than two right next to each other is better, but logistics are what they are. Another way that I've done it is I've set up a station for it with Chromebooks that I had in my classroom. The kids would go to onlinevoicerecorder.com. In my product for this on my TPT store, I have that link in the product to that website. But the kids, that website will not save the recording. So it allow them to record it, listen back to it. But once they X out of that browser, unless you've gone through the steps of creating an account, saving it to a folder and all of that, it's not going to save the file, which is good for privacy. You know, I mean, a voice isn't a super identifying thing, but you don't want your kid's voice recording like floating around on the internet. So it does just automatically delete it. With a device like a phone or an iPad, you would need to go in and manually delete them so that other kids, if they're sharing the devices, the other kids couldn't listen to each other's. Because this is what I'll tell you. Recorded readings are a little sensitive. Like the first time, in second grade is usually the first time that my kids that I taught ever were exposed to something like this. The first time they do it, they are so embarrassed when they listen back because they thought they sounded a lot better than they do. And not to say they sounded bad, they sound like early second graders reading. So in their minds, they thought they were injecting all of this expression into their voice. And they thought they were stopping completely at periods. And they thought they were doing all these things. And then they listen back to it and it's monotone and it's rushed or it's very, very slow. And they hear the thing that they need to work on. And that's where they reflect. But it's so powerful when they hear it. And so it's hard for kids to reflect on their fluency and on how they're reading if they haven't actually heard it. They're not hearing what you're hearing. They're hearing their own interpretation in their head of how they're doing. So listening back to it is just objective, like, this is how you sound. Listen to it. Because that's such a sensitive thing, I really recommend headphones and deleting recordings just because the kids, they feel embarrassed. You don't want them listening to it out loud. I would not recommend that to anybody. But I have these little rubrics that they can kind of keep up with. You could keep them all in a folder so they can look at them, copy them two-sided. They can look back at them over a stretch of time that you do this. If you're doing one a month for the whole school year, they would have 5 of these front and backs. They would have 10 copies of it total for the year, and they could see how they improve. It would be a really cool record of how they improved. But they have accuracy, speed, expression, intonation, and phrasing. And those things are, I'm reading the words correctly, I'm not reading too quickly or too slowly, I'm reading naturally, the way that I would speak to another person rather than like a robot. My voice changes with different punctuation in sentences, and I read sentences and phrases, I don't read word by word. Those are the 5 different components of fluency that I want my kids to work on in second grade. Each time they do this, they color in the number of stars that correlates with how they felt they did in that area. And then they write that their strongest area was blank because, and they explain why they felt they did well there. And then I need to work on blank because, and they fill in how they did there. One of these a month for the entire school year will set your kids up for lots of reading success in the next grade level. This isn't a second grade only thing. If you have a small group in 3rd, 4th, 5th grade that's just stuck on the fluency piece, they finally filled their phonics gaps and they just need to read a little faster or they need to read with more expression, there's no reason why you couldn't have a concentrated fluency group doing this once a month with you, while the other class may not need it. I would say that this could span pretty much any grade level as you saw a need for it. First grade teachers, you have kids where their phonics is stellar and they're reading beyond just sentence level fluency. They're reading longer books, but they're kind of jumping the gun on themselves because they're reading longer text without being fluent in them and it's harming their comprehension. This would be a great thing to bring in with just 1 or 2 kids at a time. So that is recorded readings. I hope you found this helpful. Let me know on Instagram if this is something you've done in your room, if it's something you want to try in your room, and check back in with me and let me know how it's going. Have a great day, guys.